Hello YouTube, welcome to my YouTube channel, and at Bella. Today I am going to be doing a Teachings of the Presidents of the Church book review. Last time I did one of these, I did the Thomas S. Monson one, because that's the only one I have in French. This one is the Brigham Young one, who is an extremely controversial figure in both civic life and religious life. Brigham Young, in a nutshell, Joseph Smith had the vision/dream of what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints could be. Brigham Young lived it because he was both the civic and religious leader unquestioningly. He didn't have the persecution and the issues that Joseph had because the saints weren't in the United States of America. They were in Utah, and Utah at this point was actually in Mexico. So he was dealing with the establishment of Utah. Before he became president of the church, he was the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. Because obviously, if you've seen the new film, 5-6 weeks in August, there was a succession crisis after the martyrdom of Hiram Smith and Joseph Smith, and there was about 5 candidates, and Brigham Young was one of them. Note that they've given him the the Victorian symbol of the beehive. It was very popular in Victorian era. And yes, Brigham Young is an American Victorian. Shocker. So let's crack into this. Move that out of the way. So this was published in 1997. And we've got title, introduction, historical summary, and then you've got his teachings. Intro. Then you've got a historical summary of his life. These books are really, really good because you get to know each president as a person. So we've got the ministry of Brigham Young and all of that. Some of it has been sanitized, some of it has not. It's worth noting that before Brigham Young converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it took him 2 years. 2 years to read the Book of Mormon, read the Bible, to get everything into it. And once he'd decided that he was in, he was very in. But it took him 2 years to do that. I always give him kudos and respect for that. Always know what you're getting into. Read the fine print, and Brigham did. It's fascinating to me that he did that. It's worth noting that he is one of the more controversial leaders of the church. I fully appreciate that because he is both civic and religious, and that's a lot because he was the governor of Utah. So yeah, and I fully appreciate there are issues regarding the Mount Meadows massacre, an extremely tragic event during the so-called Mormon wars with the United States government. So all of the books have pictures. So church, organisation and government. So this is what Brigham Young thought. And it's worth pointing out that what Brigham Young thought the church was going to be governed like is not necessarily how the church is governed today. And I think that's really important. The structures are there, but things have changed within them. And some people go, we've not changed that much. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but we're in 2025 now, not, what is it? Have a look at the historicity of this. It's really important that people get their heads around it. Not 1869, the railroad came to Utah and Young Men and Young Women's Institute Mutual Improvement Associations are organised. Mutual improvement was when the young men and young women actually got together and did stuff. Then we've got the Settlement West, the Miracle of the Seagulls. But what is really nice about these books is it doesn't just focus on the president. Obviously, it does focus on their teachings, but you often get, hear from their children. And look at this. This is the Salt Lake Temple being constructed. Brigham Young didn't actually live to see it dedicated. I'm just pointing that out because if we look at his timeline, dies 1877, dedicates the St. George Temple. Good old St. George. Yeah, no British influence there. Yeah, St. George is actually a knight who slew a crocodile in India. I'm just pointing that out as my bookmark. But yeah, it's fascinating, these books, because it allows the president's time to come alive again, as well as link to the current church. Salvation through Jesus Christ. Which temple is this? This is the St. George Temple. It was the first completed dedicated temple in Utah. It's a really important temple. It was a lot smaller than the Salt Lake one. What people have to understand about the Salt Lake Temple is it also contains rooms for the Quorum of the 12 and the Prophet to basically have temple meetings in. Just saying. And then we've got search the truth and personal testimony. That is so important. If you don't do it yourself, no one's going to do it for you, basically, which is why it took Brigham Young 2 years before deciding, was he in or was he out? A call for unity, a testimony, and a blessing. And then we've got, you can, from these, and I know some people go, oh, that's triggering. I'm like, grow up, it's history. History is triggering. Not everything that happens in history is nice and cuddly and warm. That's the way of it. So this is really nice because you can see it's got links to the news. It's got links to the journal discourses, which is also troubling for some people. But it's history. I'm British. I'm used to it. I'm used to looking at history from multiple places. I'm used to looking at the perspective of the crown. Looking at history from the perspective of the crown isn't necessarily looking at the perspective of that current monarch. It's actually what is good for the crown. What is good for the crown is not necessarily good for the members of the royal family within it. Just ask the Plantagenets. So you've also got to deal with your lower gentry, you've also got to deal with your ministers, you've also got to deal with your overmighty subjects. It's a whole thing, and your nobles who are also your ministers, and your relatives and cousins if you're a king. And then you've also got to deal with the clergy, and then you've got to deal with your lawyers, and then you've got to deal with the peasants. It's so important that we have, the more documents that we have about an event, the more provenance and important that event is. It's one of the reasons why Joseph Smith's history is so strong. We've got enough evidence they existed because you've got all of his personal writings, but you've also got the stuff that other people wrote about him at the time, which verifies what he was doing. It might be an incorrect report, but it proves, something was going on. And if you've got, say, 12 of those, it means that he was definitely doing something. Whether, regardless or not, the document, its facts within the document are correct, it means something's happening. So then you get this index, which is really nice because you can index what you've got. So it does make life a little bit easier for finding information. No one is going to find this information for you. You've got to do it yourself, which is very Brigham of you. Brigham is very much a practical, pragmatic man. He built things. He was a builder, very much so, in life and in his religious life as well. Joseph was a dreamer, Brigham was a builder, and Emma, she was actually very sweet, except when she was angry, she was horrible, according to reports, bless her. But what is nice is you get all these photos and documentation. It is good. And I know people are like, you can't say it's good, some of it was awful. I'm like, yeah, but that was in the then. The now it may be better. And yeah, perspective is really important. See, look. So we've got Good Samaritan there. We've got handcart companies. And remember, lots of people were on the handcart trail who did die. And then we've got cooperative stores. I mean, we have the Co-op in the UK. It's a bank, and it also is a grocery store, and it also is a funeral home. Yeah, cooperatives are nothing new, but they were really popular with the Victorians. And photograph of Elder Thomas C. Griggs, a missionary to the British Isles. See, missionary work with his little top hat. So, yeah, it's fascinating. History is history. People do things in the past that you just wouldn't dream of doing today for a whole load of reasons. But you aren't them, and you don't live their lives, and you don't have their morality. Not that morality changes, but the situations around stuff does. Look at that. That's St. George Temple. temple. So, yeah, it's nice. Got loads. I will be showing you other books in the President series. I think I've got all of them. There's Joseph Smith. But yeah, that's the most important thing, is are you going to let something in the past shape your whole testimony? And you've got to sort that out. Nobody else can do that for you. And the last days, people are babbling about the last days a lot at the moment. And parental responsibility. Oh, isn't that a topic for society? And then President Brigham Young's witness of the prophet, Joseph Smith. And this is fascinating because one of the things that Brigham did was he wrote letters to everybody who was involved in the early church, whether they were still with the church, whether they came to Utah, whether they did whatever they did. And he found them and he wanted to get what they thought before they died. So he gathered more evidence. None of the people that were involved in the Book of Mormon retracted their testimonies of it. This is the first presidency in Quorum of the 12 in 1853. So there is Brigham. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, there's always 15. There's supposed to be 12, but it's fascinating. So there's 3, 4, 8, 12. So you've got 12, and then the first presidency, it's always 15. Because these two can also go down. It's fascinating. It means there's plenty of people to go around. And then, Eliza R. Snow was a favourite with Joseph Smith and with Brigham Young. She couldn't have children because of what was done to her by certain people that were really, really mean to the church. I can't actually say it because it's inappropriate to say online, but you can look it up. She also fell out with Emma Smith and they had an altercation on the stairs. In Emma's house, by the way, because Eliza R. Snow was sealed to Joseph Smith. She was also then sealed to Brigham Young. Emma Smith was not. Emma decided not to. She decided to stay, and we all know her opinions on polygamy. But I just thought you'd like to know that. Anyway, this will be the last picture I show you. There we go. There's Brigham with his cane. He's a very practical man. Saints... He taught the saints to exercise self-control in all aspects of their lives. Yes. People say he's stern. I get that he's stern. I know that the recent Netflix series has got everybody wound up about Mount Meadows Massacre. But what you've got to understand about the Mount Meadows Massacre is it was really complicated. And it was a time when the church, the whole of Utah, was basically going to go to war with the United States of America and the current president. So with that as a backdrop, you're going to end up with a mess. And remember, people are still travelling through Utah to get to California. These are not excuses for it. These are facts. So you're basically living along a pilgrimage trail or a pioneer trail. So I hope you've enjoyed this review of this. I will be doing a full review of the Netflix series. Do not worry, but I thought I'd show you this beforehand. Thrift industry and self-reliance. That is pretty much Brigham all over. He was a very practical man, as I've said. Please like, comment and subscribe, and hoping that you're having a great day wherever you are. Bye.